Good morning, everybody. This is Lorraine, Alternative Homesteading. It's April 28, 2023 at 10:25 a.m. I hope I'm able to get through this entire document for you. I'm expecting a locksmith to come and change the locks on 3 buildings because suddenly the keys are missing. I cannot get into these buildings because I have no keys. Isn't it amazing how that happens? Since I keep all of my keys together. Anyway, I just wanted to say, and this is for the record, all night long and all this morning, I have been hit with radio frequencies, directed energy weapons, microwaves, whatever they are, pulsing the upper left portion of my brain and my skull. It's causing a lot of disorientation, like I feel like I'm stoned or something walking around, and I know it's not me. This should not be happening to a healthy person who goes to sleep at night not feeling this way and then waking up feeling this way. And by the way, I took the temperature of my feet before falling asleep last night, and it was 81 degrees. And then when I woke up this morning, my feet registered 98 degrees. 98 degrees. And within a half an hour, the temperature reduced to about 84 degrees. So this is ongoing every night, 24/7, since I moved to rural Kentucky. The only time this stopped for me was after I moved here for the 6 weeks that I was living in my car. I guess they were busy setting up and sabotaging my newly delivered home. You know, they tore up the floors that were tongue and groove and decided to place something underneath all the boards and then screw down all the boards that were tongue and groove that I could pull apart and replace the floor. I could no longer do that because every one of them was screwed down with these little square screws that I didn't even have a tool for at the time. So this is the way they sabotage an individual's home. And again, when I moved here, for 6 weeks, my symptoms disappeared. My hair grew back. I had no tinnitus. It just totally disappeared. And I was waking up and going to sleep at a usual hour, 11, 12 o'clock at night, waking up, feeling completely rested, total energy and stuff. My weight was, perfect and stuff. And as soon as I moved into my house, my newly built house by the Amish, within 9 months, half of my hair fell out. The registering of the smart meter was 5G, and it still says 5G. And every once in a while, a new individual on my network will show up as 5G, like a 5G guest, or a 5G something or else, or my address as 5G. So it's all 5G, 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 and nobody knows what's going on, folks. Come on. So anyway, I want to get to the article that I'd like to read to you. It's by Dr. Eric Karlstrom. And I'm on his mailing list, and I'm really pleased to read this to you. But before I do, please remember to hit the thumbs up button, because we've got a lot of people, and welcome newcomers. Hopefully you're not perpetrators like the last few that have logged on, for the sole intent of being alerted when my videos are populated so that you can thumbs down them. If I find out that you're the ones, you will be blocked, and then you won't be able to do any of that garbage. But for the good newcomers, welcome. The article is U.S. military police veteran audio forensics analyst and TI explains the technology used in organized stalking, electronic harassment. Amy Holem, interview May 25, 2022 with Webmaster's transcription. Now, I heard this interview back in 2022, and for the record, folks, Amy Holem analyzed several of my security camera audios. Yes, folks, and it's absolutely amazing what surfaces when you're analyzing an audio with the correct technology. But anyway, here we go, folks. It's an interview. It was 22.55 minutes long. I can post a copy of the link so that you can listen to it in the background. Sadly, it is mainly the U.S. Army that is behind it. and all of these different forms of weapon systems. They, the US government, the DOD, the UN, NATO, are selling this technology to, I can't say the word, the PEDOs, the PEDOs, and the human SEX, like the traffic lights and stuff. They are actually using these operating systems for them. That's how they make their money back. We, targeted people, are the little project, not a project, a product to them. We're nothing but a product to them. We're nothing. It's human experimentation. It's them working on virtual systems, artificial intelligence, cloud services, their network systems, VOIT services, robotics, neuralink technology. Well, we all know who's responsible for that technology. Neural print technology, BCI, brain-to-computer interface technology, and HCI, human-computer interaction, augmented reality. Oh, and I hope you all like my sign here. This is another one of those metal signs that I bought at Temu. On a dark desert highway, cool winds in my hair, right? Welcome to the Hotel California, folks. And we are living in the Hotel California. But we're not the crazy ones, boys and girls. The lunatics are running the asylum. So the DOD and the FBI, my favorite Bureau of Investigation, they have a list of targeted individuals, TIs. See, FBI, you have the list of TIs and who has been implanted and who is not implanted. So who's been naughty and who's been nice. Whether you've been implanted or not, the FBI and the DOD have the list of all the targeted people. And we all have an ID number. Isn't that cool, folks? We've got an ID number. And Amy has actually identified some of these ID numbers for the victims. They give this ID number to law enforcement programs that are state and government funded. They're using different types of programs like the CP3, the Center for Prevention Programs and Partnerships, which Biden just passed in 2021. So law enforcement officers are using this pre-crime program in order to stalk, harass, and sexually assault and rape the victims. They're using their different types of technologies that they are testing, like firearm management systems, their automated license plate readers, just like in Manalapan, New Jersey. Remember I told you folks? When I was driving, a cop pulled me over, and he says, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" It's like, "No, I didn't." And then after he told me, he says, "Well, do you know how I knew?" It's like, "No, I don't know how you knew." He said, "That sign over there has a camera." So they're using biometrics along with fingerprinting and the ID and their automated fingerprint identification systems. And NASA, NASA, that sounds a lot like NAZI, has access to the satellite systems. Many residents of Florida and Texas are victims because they are where NASA is located. The criminals, I'm so glad they use the term criminals. I thought I was the only one calling them criminals. The criminals receive catalogs of the TIs, targeted people, and get to pick and choose the victims they want to sexually assault. Well, I've got news for you folks. If I catch you, you're a goner. And they get linked out to the location where the person is via satellite. So they are using these satellite systems and radio frequencies to transmit them globally around the world. That's called RICO, the RICO Act, folks. They're violating the RICO Act. NASA has specific programs that they are using, like the Neuralink technology. Thank you, Elon, in cooperation with Elon Musk. Thank you. Thank you, Elon. The Obama and Bye Bye Biden crowd are the main human, I can't say it, the kiddo, sex, traffic lights behind this. Amy Holem, ex-U.S. military police. This is Amy. Amy is a U.S. Army military police of Amy's Audio Subliminal Acoustic Fingerprinting LLC And the webmaster's comment is, this interview provides some of the most comprehensive information I have heard about how the technology, quote unquote, works, and what groups are using it to target, traffic, torture, and destroy innocent civilians. The concept of songs on the spine is new to me, and I cannot verify it independently. However, it is very well established in the literature that particular frequencies affect particular organs, moods, diseases, etc. That's right, folks. I can attest to that. I know when they're using frequencies on me and how my mood will change. That is not part of who I am. It's being done to me. Like, I am not an angry person. I'm not an angry person. I'm a Cancer. You know, I'm a Cancer with a Libra moon, folks. You know, like, I'm real easygoing. But these people, they poke and prod. It's like sort of like poke, 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 poke. I watch my guinea hens doing this at night to other guineas in the coop. They want to show the other hen who's the boss. They poke, 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 pick at them with their beaks and stuff. It's really horrible. But that's what these criminals do. They poke, 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 provoke. So what's more, this explanation of the technology helps to explain why Dave Case's anti-tinnitus CD works so well for me. And for anybody who has listened to Dave Case's CD, it does work, but I have to tell you, I can't listen to it, folks. It just grates on my nerves. I listen to other things, like I like to listen to chants, and there is Kazakhstan singer named Dimash, and I like to listen to him. He's got a very large vocal range. And then Zakos Breedlove Ewing, I've got some of his frequencies on my channel. You can search for it. Those are really good. So the U.S. Army Intelligence Police veteran targeted with directed energy weapons fights back to help others and bring justice to perpetrator. Amy Holem is a U.S. American veteran who served as a military police officer. However, she became target of directed energy weapons. And though she is indeed a victim of that targeting, she chose to educate herself through college to understand what was going on, and now she uses her education to help others who have been targeted by our GOV and local law enforcement with these weapons. Yeah, so guys, that's why they lie. When you create an incident report with your local police department, sort of like when I was in Manalapan, New Jersey, 52 Sutton Drive, and I would file an incident report, and they would fabricate all the reports and then not be able to correct them and ignore me. And through all the FOIA requests, they've never responded. And of course, Muckrock took them all down to hide the evidence. So this is an incredibly fascinating interview that demands the people stand up and deal with these criminals in our midst, acting in places of authority. Stay tuned. On Monday, we're bringing Amy back for her part 2 with more shocking information that demands a response. So now this interview can be found at sonsoflibertymedia.com. You can also find Sons of Liberty Media on Rumble. So you can find that interview there, but I will place the interview link in the comments description. So he transcribed it for you here. So Amy says, I was in the military for 3 years. I had 2 knee surgeries and got out of the military with an honorable discharge. It started in 2016 for me. I went to the VA hospital because I was having trouble sleeping. I was only getting 4 hours of sleep per day, and you need 8 hours. Thank you, Amy. Thanks for validating that, because that's all I get, 4 hours. I want more than that. I never really slept a lot. Like, I was never an 8-hour sleeper ever in my life, even as a teenager. But I definitely need 6 hours of sleep, and I'm not getting it. So she went in for a sleep study test, and they put 100 little electrodes all over her body, your brain, and are registering brain waves while you're during your sleep patterns and your heart rate and your pulse. The hospital she went to is run by the Department of Defense. 3 months later, she got a phone call from a lady saying she was interested in hiring me in her former business. At the end of the conversation, she said, I'm an FBI agent's wife. I'm going to do a severe background check on you, and if you don't like what I see, I'm going to make your life a living hell. Well, that sounds a little bit like a threat, doesn't it, folks? About 3 months later, she was feeling really dizzy after eating dinner. She was sitting down and all of a sudden she had a seizure. She hasn't had a seizure since 4th or 5th grade. That's what they did to my mother, boys and girls, men and women, targeted folks, regular folks. They gave my mother a seizure in her sleep, dragged her to the hospital, and after 9 days she was dead, a healthy woman. Lawrence Hospital in Westchester, New York. And no, I won't ever stop talking about it. Dr. Brian Artis interviewed me on the topic of my mother and how they murdered her at Lawrence Hospital in New York. She kept seeing shadows underneath her door, and as a matter of fact, where she was living in Wisconsin at the time, the chief of police was actually arrested for training his officers to harass civilians and falsely arrest them. Amy, we need to talk about this. Because the chief of police, the former one at Manalapan, New Jersey, he did the same thing. Oh my goodness. He did the same thing with his own police officers. He was training his police officers to stalk and harass divorced single women. And they actually murdered my neighbor with 2 girls. They had 2 girls. And then they were motherless. And they're trying to do that with me too, here in rural Kentucky. The way that she says I kind of uncovered all this was listening to my phone conversations, and I could actually hear some noises in the background, things that weren't normal. And this is how I got into audio analysis. A part of this with my company, Subliminal Acoustic Fingerprinting. She tried to analyze them. She knew that law enforcement wasn't going to help her. So she came up with a special technique to actually listen to the subliminal communications that were embedded into the recording, into the file. So then, she says, I tested it out probably on 200 victims and 100 non-victims just to verify the information I was collecting. She was testing it out on different kinds of devices, from tablets to iPads, computers, application systems, USB pins to security camera systems. That's what she did with me, my security camera system. So she tested it out on multiple things to make sure that what she was capturing is almost all the different victims' communications. And the great thing about this technique is that it not only happens to people who are being victimized. Do you hear that, folks? The great thing about this technique, that it is not only happening to the people that are being victimized. It's not only happening to targeted people, folks. She's analyzing different videos and inaudible, anything that is being recorded, or you can record with sound, she can capture their communications. She gets a lot of videos, a lot of types of stalkers. It can verify those people, who the people are that are involved and not involved, and people driving down the highway, different incidences being followed, types of technologies from holograms, projections to laser technology. So different victims have a different goal in mind. Some need this information for court cases that are pending. So every time she enters a report into a court case, the court drops the case on the victims, which is a great thing. It means that she's in the right direction. They don't want her reports to enter into the court system, like mine. Do you know what mine revealed, folks? That the stalker, who was carrying a loaded weapon that fired it in front of my house in October 2019 after I moved here, you know what his name was? Ethan. Ethan. And it's just a coincidence. You know those people on the neighborhood wars on A&E, April 11? They have an adult son named Ethan. Isn't that amazing? What a coincidence. Since Ethan is not like the most common name. But anyway, she says when her targeting began, she had just passed out with a seizure and had an instant feeling in her body that all of a sudden she was no longer alone. It was an instant feeling within her body like somebody's here. She says, I sat up and immediately realized that someone else was here in the room without me seeing or knowing them. You gotta sometimes listen to your inner self. So the moderator says, this is the V2K Voice of God technology the U.S. military used in the first Iraq war. Yes, Amy said. They use directional antenna systems that can beam the voices directly into going in from the cochlea to the vestibular system. They are using radio frequencies. They are using FM and AM band widths for transmission purposes. And these criminals are actually using a mobile virtual operating network system. They can create their own types of VOIT systems, their own phone services, their own telecommunications, their own frequency tests, and install them into their own platform system. Some even use Zoom conference calling for the targeting purposes. They have access to the person's microphone and video components. Oh, really? Well, guess what, criminals? You're all getting exposed, and I do not consent. So, just so you know, I do not consent to being targeted, remotely viewed, pinhole cameras being stalked, covertly experimented on, my phone hacked, my computer hacked. I do not consent. You don't have my permission. So just in case you thought that you did have my permission, you don't have my permission. So get off my computer, get off my phone, get off my laptop, get off my property, and go arrest the county prosecutor, the perpetrators, the sheriff's department, all the neighbors that are participating in both New Jersey and rural Kentucky. Oh, and I can give you a list of all the people that have been involved here. Of course, there are a lot of unknown people, just saying. So the moderator says, is it possible you got an implant during your sleep study? She said no. When I have done audio analysis on other victims, I have some verbal confirmation that I do have implants in my body. The military could have implanted me without my knowledge during my 2 knee surgeries. The only thing that could get rid of implants is an electromagnetic pulse. You hear that, folks? An EMP can get rid of your implants because of all the different types of nanotechnology, smart dust, and graphene within people's bodies, even though I can't say it, you know, the jabby-wabby systems, it can only be killed with an EMP. Imagine, folks? So maybe we should all welcome an EMP, because even though our phones and computers won't work, guess what else won't work? You could detect it using an RFID scanner. Okay, so I'm going to chime in here. I have an RFID scanner because I rescue feral cats. And before I vaccinate them, get them TNR'd and stuff, I have to scan them to make sure they don't belong to somebody else. And yes, it costs about $300. And I've used that RFID scanner on my body. I have not detected a number, but it doesn't matter because the way the scanner works is you have to point and click, sort of like with my thermometer. So in order to point and click to my entire body, it would take me hours. So I have pointed and clicked on areas of my body that I thought were implanted, and nothing comes up. It could be because whatever is implanted in my body is so tiny that it doesn't pick it up. Smaller than a pet chip, which is the size of a piece of rice. So she said when she learned about the audio and heard these communications in the background, she thought, I know I can do this. It only took her 5 days to figure out the technique. She read 5 books, front and back, within 5 days figured out the technique. So this, on the screen of the interview, is a spectrum review slide that she sent him. This image uses a spectrum analyzer tool. She says, when I do audio analysis, I can pull out the different types of frequencies and identify them with the FCC ID and database system. The SAF is my subliminal acoustic fingerprint technique. RAW, R-A-W, is the original file she's analyzing. So you can definitely see the differences between the images and the projections and the identifying numbers. There are numbers, identifying numbers. They have to identify us somehow. She says, I have to identify all these frequencies and carrier frequencies they are using. I have to check out their wavelength, their broadband, and what kind of subcarrier wave is. Whether it is an underground mine, a submarine channel, identifying the frequencies is key because it aligns with the equipment they are using and that I've identified within the victim and the type of network system that is attacking the victim. And just so you know, folks, Amy discovered an 8-point kill grid on my property. So you effers that are targeting me, 8-point kill grid for one little old me, one little 64-year-old woman, you little criminals. That's right. Amy located an 8-point kill grid on my remote, rural, 64-acre property that borders the state of Kentucky. So she says in the U.S., you are dealing with NORTHCOM, U.S. Northern Command, U.S., Canada, and Mexico, and the military, and the DoD. So different companies and corporations deal with specific parts of the technology and the equipment that is being used. Oh, I missed a section here. She says, when you're dealing with the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, and you're finding these frequencies, a lot of companies and corporations only have a specific allocation for that specific frequency in that range. So, for example, Arizona Avionics has to do with the military-grade weapon systems and aeronautical engineering programs. It is an EU, NATO, radio communication center. So a lot of that correlates with the information that is being collected from victims in foreign countries, which is where you will find the EU and NATO. So they're doing this in the US and overseas, folks. And now the moderator says, why is Belgium so involved in all of this? Amy says, I'm involved with ICATOR, class action lawsuit, international class action lawsuit against neurotorture. There are about 150 victims from different countries that are involved in this lawsuit, and she has helped over 3,500 victims on a global scale. We have victims from Japan, China, Australia, London, Ireland, Scotland, Austria, Germany, Belgium, Spain, Argentina, Canada, and the United States. The ICATOR lawsuit proved that mind control technology, the BCI, brain-computer interface technology, the neuralink technology, and the 5G microwave weapon system is being used. This lawsuit is very important because Belgium is the headquarters for the EU, NATO, and NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards of Technology. A lot of the connections between the kiddo, human, the traffic signals, is actually through the Department of Defense, NATO. They are actually supplying the links to the weapon systems that are being used on the victims. Okay, I'm getting sick, folks. This is disgusting. Regarding the possible connections between TI torture program and I can't say it, the COV, Jabby Wabby, called the Jabbied. Doing this type of study with the victims that she's worked with, she's captured information about biotech, Lunatech, and that the Pfizer people, all creating the database system and manipulating the mRNA and DNA sequencing within the human body using different types of military projects like Genesis. The moderator says, the CDC has hundreds, thousands of pages on the zombie apocalypse. The media is prepping us for this, where people are just not in control of themselves. It's almost like they are taken over by somebody else. This sounds exactly like what you're talking about. Do you think that's a possibility? And Amy says, oh, absolutely. In some of the videos I wanted to show you, I'll just describe it instead in the video. A beam of light going into the victim's head, and then you could see the victim raising their arm straight up into the air. Then as soon as the beam of light releases the head and shoots back into the direction where it came from, the victim pulls down their hands. They are being remotely moving their bodies and manipulating manipulating her while she was sleeping. She says, another one I have at this poor woman. It made me cry watching and listening to the audio. They were forcing the woman to move her head and go around in circles. It was like, move your head to the left, and she would jerk it to the left, and move your head to the right, and she would jerk it to the right. They were literally forcing her body to make these movements without authorizations or permission. So using this nanotechnology and how much it is in your body is basically how they are mapping you out with their weapon systems. So it can be centralized to your central nervous system through the brain stem and the spine. I don't know if I sent you the songs of the spine photo. It should be a vertebrae. And then it shows the different tones. The tone generators can each manipulate portions of your body system through the central nervous system, playing a specific tone or note. So folks, I'm at the 30-minute mark here. I'm going to have to go because I'm expecting a locksmith. But I'm going to post the link in the description and the comments section for you to go to and read the rest of it. This is absolutely disgusting. These people are playing God. They're not God. They're mad scientists. They're sadists. They're criminals. This is absolutely disgusting. And you know what, targeted folks? We have been trying to warn the public for years. Now suddenly, the rest of the public are no longer calling us tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists. They're starting to wake up. I've been watching a lot of these homesteading channels and prepper channels, and they're finally waking up and talking about it. They're talking about it as if they're learning that this is new. That this is all new stuff that's happening. No, folks, it's not new. This has been going on for decades. And people like targeted individuals, non-investigative subjects, we're the test subjects. We're being experimented on for profit. So thank you, Dr. Eric Karlstrom, for posting this on your website. And his website is gangstalkingmindcontrolcults.com. And I appreciate his work because he is one of the only people that discusses the cults and the agenda and the witchcraft and the rituals and all of those other things that maybe other people are not either recognizing or not getting, but I'm getting it. I've been receiving it since Manalapan, New Jersey. They're performing rituals on my property. It's trauma-based mind control and satanic ritual abuse. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. Please hit the thumbs up button. I will talk to you soon.